can open up and just receive. 'Cause what he's pouring out is nothing you've ever seen. You've ever seen. So hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope. It's a new horizon. Hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope. It's a new horizon.
Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. I'm Megan DiMartino, and this is the Propel Deep Dive. And I am so pleased to have you. I was just praying and worshiping as we were listening to that beautiful song about the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Hello, hope. Hello, peace. Hello, love. Hello, strength, a new horizon. And what I was praying about really was you. Listening to the Holy Spirit. That is the scripture and the word this week for my new Motivation Monday that I launched today under the Propel banner of the Propel Daily, the Propel Weekly with Clubhouse on Breakfast with Champions, and this evening with the Propel Deep Dive. But I'm going to kick off the week with an e-blast that essentially sets the theme of the week of the Propel Dailies. And Propel Daily, I started all of this back in the first of this year. This is essentially the evolution from my Propel is the evolution from my Unique Leaders Live, which was a live and a podcast that I did for 2 years. Put a pause on it last year in March because I was working on the Propel program. When I say the program, I mean the Propel Your Business and Life Activation Program. And that has been done for a bit, but now it's time to roll it out and to help you. And so all of this is coming together. And when I say coming together, it's my heart to bring it to you, to help you start, scale, and sustain the business and life of your dreams. I've been building businesses for 30 some odd years, since 1992, and 2 skincare brands, Glycolique and then Novitas Spa Clinicals, as well as a luxury day medical wellness spa. And now I've shrunk the model to change the model after I sold a portion of that business in 20, and we launched end of last year the Novita Beauty and Regenerative Wellness, which really, from my position, is focusing on regenerative stem cell, vitamin infusion, infrared saunas, and things of that nature, but always the Novitas Spa Clinical products. That is really the foundation of the health of your skin. And so we're putting together an affiliate program that's going to be in that Propel Your Business and Life Activation program. So that's kind of a nutshell of what I've been doing for the last 2 years. And that was really guided by the Lord, meaning in the summer of 21, I went on a little retreat by myself and just went into prayer and fasting and just asked the Lord for guidance. And I just heard, go slow and listen. And that essentially, that word has been a foundation for the last 2 years, meaning that it might seem like I've been running, doing, but not really. I've been going slow and listening. And then the Lord has brought people into my life, such as Angeline Moore, that has helped me with her Kingdom Sparkle agency. That was the piece that I really needed to launch the Propel Your Business and Life Activation Program, and all of these platforms, such as the Daily, which is encouragement and just really that my heart is about, meaning to give you a morning nugget when you first open your phone and see just a word of encouragement for the day, an inspirational word just for the day. and then go on from there. So all of this has been evolutionary, meaning one step leading to the next. And that's really what my heart is about, is to help you build that muscle of listening and then propelling your business. Because as I say, start small, dream big, and scale fast. Because once you start, you really need to continue on. Because it's in that atrophying of that is when you get stuck in the mud and stop. And so, because you second guess yourself, it's that, oh, am I smart enough, good enough, I'm capable enough, do I have the tools, all of that stuff. And that is what the Propel program is going to help you with, is to start, scale, and then sustain. And we're going to be doing a mastermind program with that. But that, all of that information will come. But I share this to really introduce my guest as well, Pam McCloskey. I met Pam very casually at a real-time conference that Ashley Trey Brandstetter and Marcus Black put on, called Embrace Your Ambition. And that was last June 22 in Denver. And then I was so that was June. And then in November, I went to Tamara Andrus's Grow Your Business for God's Sake in Nashville. And to this moment, I have no idea how this came together, but the point is that Pam McCloskey and I, along with another gal, Denise Speaks is her handle on Instagram and Facebook, and we shared a suite in Nashville, and I had the great opportunity to get to know her, to walk with her, to break bread with her, to just to know the fiber of her spirit and who she is. And so with the Propel Weekly, I invite a guest to come in with me on my Breakfast with Champions room that I call Propel Weekly, because I start the ball rolling with this Propel week. So it starts there, and then we go into the deep dive, which is tonight. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you my special guest, because you're all my guests, Miss Pam McCloskey. Hello, Pam.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here.
So good to have you, Pam. So really good to have you here. You've been on my list for a while now, and I mentioned this on Tuesday that people ask me, how do I know, how do I choose guests and that type of thing? And my answer is really the Holy Spirit. And so when I get, I have a list of people that I would like to have join me. But then when the Holy Spirit says, okay, time to call Pam, text Pam, communicate with Pam, that is what I do. So thank you so much for saying yes and joining me tonight on the deep dive.
It's a pleasure. I was so tickled when you called. It was like, yes, because I loved our time together. The
Yes.
time that we spent together is very precious.
It really, really was. It was actually one of the highlights of that conference. And so often, that's really what happens. I mean, there were nuggets, of course, but it's that one-on-one time that you spend with people that you really don't know, but that you get to know that person, and that person will always be, close to your heart. So really, so that's what I want to do this evening, because there are people that were in the clubhouse room that may not be here tonight, and vice versa, that are here tonight that were not in the clubhouse room. So before we open the room to others, and one of the reasons I am doing it this way, Pam, actually, is because I want people not only to know you, but also, meaning my guest, but also to give them the opportunity to interact and ask their own questions. So I mentioned earlier, and we spoke about this on Tuesday, before we go to young Pam a little bit, and just a snapshot of where it brought you to today, but is that be still and listen, and how important that is, because as I was doing my social media posts, and when you do that, I'm sure you have the same experience, you're over there in those platforms and you get pulled into other people's posting. Mm-hmm. And you start, reading them, and then I have to say, oh, whoa, I'm here not for this, I'm here to post my own stuff. But what really has been So, and I've said this to Angeline, what is so prevalent to me is that the noise is getting louder. The noise of the craziness of the world and the division of the world, but also other people who I might not even know, and you might not even know really. I mean, I don't mean you personally, but meaning in general, yes, but others are advertising, I guess, um, to be an influencer, a coach, a this and a that, you know? And I'm not saying that they aren't capable. I'm not saying that at all. But it's incumbent upon us to do the work to research who those people are and to hear their hearts, because that's one of the things that I love about Proverbs. It's that wisdom to go in, because the Proverbs, you know, wisdom is an inside out job. You know, it's really understanding yourself. So you personally had a very challenging young years. So just in a nutshell, I want you to share about, because it's so powerful, how, you know, as a young gal, as a young person, the words that you heard about yourself, people spoke over you and spoke to you, and how those words could have and did paralyze you and alter your life for quite a while. But just share a little backstory.
So yeah, because of me growing up in a dysfunctional home, you know, my mom had mental illness, and I don't think any of us understood to the great depth that it really was until many years later. But I had said, you know, that my name at home was good for nothing, rotten SOB or fat cow. And when you're called that so many times and you're treated in a way that is just very disgraceful, you know, like it's very demeaning. You carry this heaviness with you, and an identity. Your identity are those things, because as a child, you don't know any different. And so for years and years and years and years, up until I was probably about 32, 33, I really believed that. I believed that those words haunted me every day. And everything I did was tainted by those words. And even as a Christian, when I became a Christian, I knew what the words said in my head. But in my heart, I still carried that I was a good for nothing rotten SOB. And so everything I did, I felt like I was a failure, and I couldn't meet the mark. I couldn't be as good as other people. And there were things I was successful in, but I couldn't see it because I was seeing it through those names and those words. And, you know, and it was when I was about 32, 33 years old is when I got still. That's exactly what I did, Megan. I got still and I listened to God. I was reading a scripture, and I had read it many times before. But this particular time, it hit me. And I still have the page where the tears, my eyes were just pouring out with tears, because he was showing me, you're not a mistake. I wanted you to be here. Because up to this point, I really believed I was a mistake. Mom and dad didn't really want me, you know? And when he revealed that to me, and it was in that quiet moment. And I think sometimes we can be so busy that we don't take those quiet moments, and then we miss out on the things that he wants to say to us, that he wants us to hear, that actually can turn the whole course and put you on a whole different path. And that's what this did, because once he showed me I wasn't a mistake, instantly my next question was, well, wait a minute, if you want me here, why? What am I here for? What is my purpose? And that door flew open, and it took, I'm still discovering it. I think that's a forever journey until we get, until we're not here on earth anymore. But if you asked me now, do I know who I am? Yes, I do. I do. I am the daughter of the King. he is my daddy, you know, and and but I'm always discovering a little more and a little more of what my purpose is,
Mhm.
and it feels really good to be walking in my purpose. You
And
know,
that,
but in the beginning, it was, you know, it was like I don't really know why I'm here, and he had to strip me of a lot of things. And that was scary because all those old things were like my best friend. And you might say, "But Pam, it was awful. Why, you know, why would you want to identify as what you were called?" Because that's all I knew.
it was familiar. It was familiar.
Yes, it was, and we hate the unknown, and we get very uncomfortable whenever we're getting pulled in a direction that we're not, we you know, out of our comfort zone, and so there came a point where he had pretty much stripped me from all of that, but yet I really didn't know who I was yet, and
And that's
that's a journey.
And that, right, it's a journey, it's a process. And one of the things I do want to highlight is that you, you alcohol, promiscuity, other things, other behaviors, because as you become an adult, you're trying to validate, give yourself value and validate yourself through those actions, but you and those behaviors. But you also shared that became, and I shared this, Pam, not to reiterate that or expose, but one of the things that I feel very strongly about is that, and I did this with unique leaders, meaning that people shared themselves, okay? Because people watching this, not just tonight, but also then in subsequent times, watching it on YouTube and LinkedIn and what have you, will see themselves. And
Yes.
therefore, they then say to themselves, if Pam McCloskey can overcome that, so can I. It
Yes.
might not be immediate, because in that though your story is what shares those steps that had to happen. Like you said, you had to release it. You had to um, put on that new garment. You had to put on that new identity. And that takes time, it does. And it's one step to leads to the next step and so forth. But I also want you to share in that behavior piece, your husband, because that's a
Yeah.
piece I feel is very important. Because first off, you're still married.
Yes. Yes, I know. That's victory, right?
Right.
That's right. That's right. We're claiming it. We're
Right.
claiming it.
So
Yes.
I want to stress that.
Yes.
But the fact that, so I want you to spend a little time on that, because there are so many women and men
Mhm. Oh,
that
yeah.
have had unrequited love. They have had heartbreaks, but they've also had, let's say, look for love in all the wrong places and acted out and so forth, all of the above.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
I want you to share that story though, Pam, because that's a very powerful story for hope and possibilities for people.
Yes. I'm gonna go back just a touch so
Yeah,
people understand
please.
why this is significant.
Yeah.
So, when I left my abusive home, I ended up in an abusive relationship, and I had a baby to him, a son, and 3 years into living with him, he was strangling me one day, and I looked up, I saw my son, and his face was beet red, and, I told myself as I was being strangled, "Okay," I wasn't a Christian yet, but I was starting to know who God was, and he was strangling me, and I told God, "You let me live through this and I'll change my life," and I blacked out, and when I came to, my son was still there, his dad was gone. I grabbed him, we left. But I became homeless because I couldn't go back home. I didn't have any friends anymore. And so I ended up finding an abandoned home and stayed in it, and then eventually got an apartment. Okay. So about a year later,
Stop,
mm,
because I mean, I mean, that is a very, in itself, a very challenging time. I mean,
absolutely.
we could take that apart
Yeah.
and analyze just that.
Yeah.
But to me, Pam, what that is saying is, and you said two things that are like, da-da, is that During that season is when God started revealing himself to you, where you heard it, you listened.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's number one. Doesn't mean that it wasn't difficult being homeless and finding a place to live and all of those things. And obviously you got a job and you started pulling yourself up from the bootstraps, obviously. But that doesn't mean that from an emotional position that was not extremely difficult.
It was extremely difficult. It was scary. It wasn't just about me anymore. I had my son. I had no idea how I was gonna take care of him, and there's lots of things not even being said here about what I had to deal with his dad, just all of that. You're exactly right. Very emotional time, scary, but when you're in that position, you learn to survive, and I was a survivor.
Mhm.
I was a survivor. And so here I am now, about a year later, I meet my husband. We met in the past, but he shows back up in my life. We get married within 4 months of dating, and I'd like to say we lived happily ever after. But the problem was I was never taught what to do with my stuff. Like, I had a lot of anger. I was a very angry, and people are like, "I can't even imagine you like that," but I was an extremely angry person because I had all this resentment and bitterness that I didn't know that's what it was. I just knew I was really angry.
Mhm.
And my house was very angry growing up, so it almost was like a habit too. And so, I didn't know how to deal with the depression, the anxiety, and I still hated who I was, still was dealing with all that. And here we are. I became a Christian and I'm going to church and I'm having a difficult time because everybody seems perfect and I'm not. I know what's going on inside of me. And what no one knew was for the first 6 years of my marriage, I was cheating on my husband. And you can only do that for so long before you become so depressed. You have to keep up with your lies. You know what you're doing is wrong. You don't even I mean, I really didn't understand why I was doing it because my husband loved me and I knew he loved me. And so I became suicidal and I was going to take my life. And in desperation, I went to a bookstore and told God, "You got to help me. You got to help me." And he did. He gave me a book to read, and she talked about how your husband might need change, your kids might need change, but the only person you can change is you. And no one ever said that to me because nobody knew what was going on. I hid it well. I would walk into the church building and everybody would say, "Oh, you're such a light." And they had no idea what was going on inside of me. So yeah, I was cheating on my husband for 6 years. And I'm going to shorten this by saying, because there's a lot of pieces to this, but several years later, I revealed my adultery to my husband. And you talk about I thought for sure he was going to leave me. But God always has a perfect timing in the way he does things. And he knew for us that my husband needed to see, because what happened was, in this book that I was reading, she also said, "You can ask God to change you, but you better be ready because he'll use whatever it takes." And I was so desperate and so suicidal. I got on my knees and said, "Okay, God, change me." And 2 months later, we had a house fire. That totally changed everything, propelled us from Pennsylvania to Dallas, Texas. We lived there for 9 years, met a group of people, met my mentors, met the people who really spoke life into me. So here I am, I'm working on myself, God's working on me, and my husband sees a huge change in me, and now I'm revealing the adultery to him. So for him, when I revealed it to him, one of the most beautiful things he said to me is, "Pam, I know that you're not that same person." And he we had a lot we had to work on. I had my part, he had his part, but one of the other things that he said was, if you working on yourself changed you that much, maybe there's some things I need to work on."
Mhm.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, so it was a lot to deal with. Um, and what I really discovered in my healing for me, when people ask, "Well, why did you commit the adultery?" It wasn't over love, and I really thought it was in the beginning until my mentor helped me understand, "No, you had love." And it was like, "You're right. My husband loves me. I know he loves me." I wanted to feel beautiful, even if it was just for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband would tell me I was beautiful, but the problem wasn't with my husband. The
Right.
problem was what was going on inside of here, because I still was carrying all that stuff.
Right. You had an insatiable need to be,
Yes.
and his, your husband's support and affirmation for you wasn't enough because you assumed he should have done that anyway. So,
Yes, that's
and,
exactly it. Yep.
and then also the other piece to it is do I even deserve him?
And I knew in my heart, I even knew the day that we got married, I knew I didn't deserve him. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just didn't want the bad guys that I always picked. I was done with the abuse, and I knew this guy wouldn't abuse me.
Right. Well, that's also the pattern that you're familiar with, that behavior. Yes. No,
Absolutely.
I do
Yeah.
understand it. I do very clearly, because I've had this, I mean, not the same story, but, just similar patterns. And so many women do. Um, and I wasn't married, but yet I had had a broken heart. And so
Mhm.
I was in, a career job, and it was like I had a sailor in every port type of thing. So,
Yeah.
story different, but on the other side of it, at the root of it, that's why I do understand it very clearly.
But Megan, one of the things that I realized in my healing and now working with other women, and
Mhm.
we may have different experiences, but we have the same pain, the same fears.
That's right.
We none of us like to get out of our comfort zone. All of us are having that challenge of overcoming low self-worth and imposter syndrome, no matter where it came from.
Right.
And so we have these interlocking pieces that we can relate to each other. And one of the most beautiful things that you said as we started out was, when we can, and I know this is why you do a lot of what you do, is when we can speak out, voice out, use our voice in what we've been through, it gives others permission to do it too.
Yes.
And it's one of the reasons when I work with women, one of the first things I do in our very first session is I will tell them my story. And I don't tell them my story because I need to tell my story. I tell my story because every time I do, it gives them permission.
Right.
It breaks that wall down and it gives them permission to be able to tell theirs. And that is one of the most beautiful things that we can do for someone, is give them permission, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there who are just dying to be able to talk about what's going on inside of them.
Yes. And that's why I said earlier about, reading people's posts and their highlight reels. It's like I want to throw the phone through the window, because it's that highlight reel is not going to help anybody.
No.
And so we have got to be real and help others. See themselves. Like you said, Pam, the stories are different. Everyone's story is absolutely going to be different. But on the other side of that story is that pain and that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's giving them permission, I love that word, to get to see themselves and to slowly undo and unravel. But without the power, this is me, without the power of the Holy Spirit guiding, you get stuck. You get stuck in so many places. And that is that understanding that He's always with us and always guiding us, but we have to trust that. Trust His
Yes.
Lord.
And this is something I get to talk about, especially with the women I work with, but out there, I don't really get to say it a whole lot. And you just hit something. one of the things that I had to overcome, even after I was a Christian and I was walking into my healing and even coming out of it, something that God revealed to me was that my perception of him was so messed up.
Yes.
I'm trying to trust a God that I don't really trust. All the people in my past have hurt me. And here I am, my parents, your parents, our different people in our life are to show us who God is, but no one really did because they didn't know him. And so my view of God, I had like 7 different views of him that were totally distorted. And I really had to work through that so that I could actually wholeheartedly, not just with my mind, not with that, oh man, I wish I could just get this right. I wholeheartedly got to a place where I can fully trust him now because my perception of him is so much better. And it's something that I love speaking into women. I actually have a title for it to help them understand what's actually going on here, because we will hear in churches and in different places that we need to trust God. We need to talk to him. We need to do this with him. But if you don't see him for who he truly is, and you see him through all your pain and your hurt and what's happened to you, it is really hard to trust him.
Right. Well, especially, it's about building a relationship, but if you have broken relationships and don't know how to build relationships, then how do you do that with
Exactly.
God,
Exactly.
And when I first came to know Jesus on the Damascus Road in 1992, I had gone to Catholic school all my education, including college, and it's like, Jesus was on that cross, and it was all about rules and regulations. So I had none, zero relationship. But my spirit had a knowledge, and so that's what kind of helped me along the way. But when I finished college, I just allowed the Holy Spirit to tap dance through. Satan to tap dance, evil, negative, whatever word you want to use, to tap dance through my life because I had no foundation. And it wasn't until I came, the boardroom, Father, Son, Holy Spirit said, okay, how are we going to reach this one? She has a heart for us. Let's get her down to the Bible Belt, and where she knows not one human. And so so I came to Fort Worth, Texas, and everyone that I saw often, like my stylist, my nail tech, and my secretary, all spoke about this Jesus like they had had dinner with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
yes,
who is this Jesus? And so I asked Debbie, my secretary, one day to have lunch, and she was the kind of gal that had a little, very conservative. She had a little, this is 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and she had little shirtwaist dresses on, and that like Beaver Cleaver's mom. And so I said, so Debbie, tell me about this Jesus that you speak about all the time. And she started, Pam, talking about a very similar story to you, but what she did share also was that she was an alcoholic, and that she drank a bottle of vodka every night. And I was like, oh my God. I was drinking too much, but not a bottle of vodka every night. But that her husband was so committed to her to stay with her and to help her. And so when she met Jesus, it was a transformational experience. And so I'm like, oh my goodness. And so God was just softening my spirit. So when the summer of 92, and it was ironically, or not so, the same summer I launched my first skincare brand, Glycolique. And so it was a pretty intense summer. But the thing about, I'll never forget this. Every time I was in church, because I started traveling to launch this line with the wholesale distributors, every time I was in church, I would go up for an altar call. And this lady, I'll never forget, she had like a Dorothy Hamill haircut, really cool haircut, and these long chandelier earrings. And she stopped me in her heavy Texas accent, and she said, honey, I don't know what you've done, but you've forgiven. And I was like, I looked at her in her eyeballs and I said, it can't be that easy.
Mm. Mhm.
And so it's that forgiving part.
Yes. Yes.
So he has forgiven us, but it's
Mhm.
forgiving ourselves.
That was one of the hardest things for me because, I'm carrying this adultery in me and, some of the crazy things I did, growing up and just all of that. And I did get to a point where I felt like God forgave me, but I still hung on to it for a while because I couldn't forgive myself. Yes.
It's a key. It's a real key.
Yes.
And
And
so,
I tell you what, when because I just feel like someone needs to hear this. When you forgive yourself, there is such freedom in it. I think sometimes we feel like we don't deserve it because we know what we've done, but when we can actually allow ourselves to get to that place of forgiving ourselves and letting it go, not letting it weigh us down anymore, giving ourselves that grace and mercy, there is so much freedom and peace. If you ask me today, I'm a very peaceful person.
mhm.
And I'm this way because I just kept letting God shed it out, just get it, let's work through it. What needs to be worked through, let's work through, and I just and anytime the Satan tries to bring it back, I remind him who I am and that that's gone. That's been forgiven. I don't need to play in that playground anymore.
No, no, because it
Yeah.
doesn't serve you, your
Mm-mm.
husband, your family, and the women that you're working with. So
Yes.
before we go into that, Angeline, are there any guests in the green room? Because she's
We do not have any guests tonight. I saw some pop in, but then they popped back out. But we do have watching with us. We have Tanya Gossage on the Facebook group, and then there's Jessica Powers in the Facebook group. Debbie Dowling Waba, of course. Hello, hello. And then Vanjie has been watching with us too. So we have some ladies definitely tapping in and
okay.
hearing us, but
So
not in the back end with us. So you guys can continue. We'll give it a go.
yes, well,
Right?
we
It's a
will.
little
And I
different.
know they'll pop in questions if Debbie and all the folks that just you mentioned, if they have any questions, any thoughts, any ideas, any comments, or if you want to come on over to StreamYard. When Brian Coletto comes in, he hardly ever opens his video, so you don't have to. I mean, tonight I need hair color, that's why I have my cap on, and so I've got my I Am Blessed a T-shirt on. I noticed when I was closer you couldn't see it, but then I stepped away so you could see.
Yeah, when you stepped away, I could see it's like, yay.
Right, right. So okay, so let's go into now where you were in Dallas, and but before we go to that, you had a house fire, which I also had a house fire in 1983, and Christmas time of '83, and again, very different story, very different, but it was a very tumultuous time in my life. Someone had come into my life and then broke my heart. I had gotten divorced, 5 years prior, 4 or 5 years prior, and this was a person I knew many, many years ago, and he came in with, right on the white horse, and first day proposed to me, and I said, let's take this slow because I had 2 children, and he had never married. And so then as the months went on, he realized he wasn't ready, capable to take on a family. So it was a very difficult time. And at that time, December 9th, 1983, I was stringing lights on the front bushes, and I had put a wash in the dryer, and my younger gal came out to help me, and my older gal was inside, and she came to the door saying, there's smoke billowing from the dryer, the back of the dryer. So I went into the house and I did something I shouldn't have done because it probably would have put itself out. But I opened the door because you know how a dryer stops if you open the door. So I gave it oxygen and it exploded. And luckily, I wasn't injured, but it
Wow.
exploded. And then because when the fire people came, I was in the front lawn, and they didn't know it was me. And they had gone to the roof and chopped through I had a bedroom upstairs, so they had a skylight, and they broke through that to release. And it hadn't hit the burn point, which meant that it would totally collapse in itself. But the what's the word I want is that I could see, even standing there, that I wouldn't say symbolic, but I knew that it was changing a trajectory of things,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
And so, like you said, when that happened, and then it propelled you to move to Texas and go through that and that healing process and mentors. But then you also shared that during that season you started mentoring others. So why don't you share that? Because that essentially is when your coaching began, I assume.
It did, because one of the things that, as I was healing and going through healing, it was very modge podged. Yes, I had my mentors and I had a support group, which I think, I'm just going to say this, it is very, very important to have your support group, your people who they've got you and they're there for you, whether that's a group of people, which for me, I really needed to be in that environment because I needed. So I say it like this: we have two types of wounds. We have A type and B type. A type are the things that have happened to you, that like abuse, those kinds of things. And then you have the B type where you didn't get what you should have.
Mm-hmm.
A type can heal in counseling sessions and coaching and those kinds of sessions, but B type normally only ever heal when you're in a community of people who are supportive, who love you, who speak truth to you, and that's what I needed. I needed to have that group of people. So I did have my mentors and I had my support group, but I also, there was a few other things I needed, and it was all Mod Podge together.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I started doing, and I knew this for years and years and years as I was working with women, was I wanted them to have one place to come to be able to get what they needed. And so what naturally started to happen was, as I was coming out of my healing, I started going to counseling courses and, just different things that could help me be able to understand even deeper, which I absolutely love those kind of topics. um, and God started bringing women to me. I didn't have to go look for them, and I never have to go look for them. They always are naturally drawn to me. I believe God always brings me the people that He wants me to speak life into. And so He started bringing women to me, and I, started working with them. So I've been working with women for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until about 3 years ago that it was right before COVID hit. And it was also my dream to be able to do videos and download them, but I never knew many, many, many years ago, I didn't know how to do that. Like, I didn't know where you could do it where people couldn't just take them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Life Learning Center that I have today, it's Pamskey's Place, Life Learning Center. It's virtual right now. Um, is a place where women can come into, and it's 5 rooms, and there's videos and downloads and check off things that you can check off, and just all kinds of things that can help them with emotions, with maybe some behaviors they have, which, I obviously understood that because as a teen, I got into the drugs, alcohol, and sex. And then as an adult, people pleasing, even as I was going through my healing, I began to realize, wow, I thought some of these other things were a problem, but I was people pleasing. I wanted people's approval. Those behaviors that we do because we, like you said, we are trying to survive. We are, it's our way, it's our coping skills.
Mhm, mhm.
And so 3 years ago is whenever I started the Pamskey's place, and I've been building that, and women come in and we go live twice a month, which has been beautiful. We have incredible conversations, and I always lead with some kind of topic. Sometimes it's boundaries, sometimes it's people pleasing, sometimes we'll strictly be talking about our relationship with God. So we have a lot of fun in there. It's a pretty neat thing to see what God has put together.
So as we have some guests joining us, Debbie has come in, and Jana and Brian. I just mentioned that Brian rarely comes off camera or onto camera, but that's okay.
It's good to see Brian here.
That's-
Yay.
he has he's a very busy man, and he's very social, and he does a lot of networking there in Central Jersey. And so he generally goes to his chamber events or his whatever Rotary things, and then he pops in here and joins us. So, but welcome everyone. So glad you came tonight. And Debbie, you were in the Facebook group, but I'm glad you came over, to join Pam and I. And Jana, I don't know if you know Pam McCloskey. Do you know her? Yes?
Jana, do you know me?
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. So I'm the last to know these things, guys.
Yeah. Yep. Jana, I think Jana's froze. Oh, there we go. Yes, Jana
Yeah,
knows
my
me.
Wi-Fi is acting really weird. That's why I'm so late. I had to call technical support, and I thought of all days
Well,
when
you're
Pam is
here. You're
on.
here. That's what's important. Yes, actually, yes, Jana and Debbie, we all know each other very well.
Good. Well, Jana is a regular here, Pam. So and what I really want to do, Pam, is to have a very diversified guest. Wouldn't you agree, Jana? Every week there are different subjects, different people, different points of reference. Wouldn't you agree, Jana?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Because like we talked about Pam earlier, it gives people, because everyone has a story, everyone has a different perspective of things and whatever they're working on or dealing with or doing. Like last week, it was very sales oriented. We had Shay Brown with us, and he's a very transparent person. He's had a lot of challenges in his life, but he's also a very his heart is to help people, grow and learn and do, and so forth. So he's very action oriented. So I'm just loving this because this is just really rich with helping people really go within and see themselves. So Debbie, what would you like to add this evening to this conversation? Any thoughts, any question, because you yourself have been through a lot.
Well, first I want to say go Yankees because I love your hat.
I said,
I want to go get mine.
I need hair color. I'm having a tube tomorrow, and it's like I can't hide it any longer. So that's.
But I love the Yankees, but hearing Pam's story, and we joke around about my daily dose of Pam or my daily dose of Debbie, but each time I hear a story, like I hear different pieces because different pieces sneak out, and it's just amazing that as often as you can talk to somebody and they can tell your story, it's amazing how little and by little even more comes out and it reveals even more. And I just love that you share your story, Pam, and it just inspires me. And Megan, you inspire me all the time as well. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
I think our spirits and stories, and we've said this before and you hear this, but it's like an onion. I just shared the house fire, but I don't even know if I've ever shared that. I really have no idea. But the thing is that when you shared about that, Pam, it evokes and elicits, a thought and an idea. But again, back to the why of it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Not because God doesn't do things; He allows things. And so I can look back on that. I mean, we lived in a friggin' trailer on the front lawn for a year. Now, I could have rented a house, but we had so many dang animals. that I felt, and my kids had been through so much, I said, oh, well, we'll stay here. Oh, yeah, what a decision that was. It was really crazy. So, but with that said, it just evokes so many memories of things, right? And that's what you're saying, Debbie, is that you not only get an inner, not just snapshot, but that layer that Pam is sharing that connects with you, but also it evokes those other memories of that you've been through, you know, because once you live life, I don't really care what age you are, you know, there are so many segments. Don't you feel that, Pam, you've lived so many lives within your life?
Unmute yourself, Pam.
Oh, okay. See, I don't have my glasses on, Debbie, so I have to, it's kind of like,
There you go. It had unplugged or something, and so I was gonna say, yes, for sure, and, you know, every time I tell my story, I have people that say, Please tell me you're writing a book." And it's like, "Yes, I am, but I need to get it done because there's so many little stories within the story."
yes, that's what I'm saying. It's the stories within the stories,
Yeah.
and they just continue to roll out. And, you know, I've sat down when my husband passed away, and many of you have heard this story, but I heard share my story, and I was like, Lord, what story? Tonight, Paul's passing, his illness, which was very difficult, my life story, but God doesn't answer those questions. So, you know, it took 8 years to sit down, but I was journaling. But I realize now that I could write another book, but I don't know if I'll do that because it was so much work, you know. But I think this type of work is in lieu of that, you know, because it was a general. But this type of work here is part of that. Don't you agree, Pam? Meaning,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
because
Absolutely.
I mean, you said it also, Debbie, that you know, every time you listen to Pam, you hear more in those layers and the stories within the stories. Well, Brian, you're on camera. Yay! Here you are, sir. And I just, you know, I'm sure you guys all follow Brian on social media, but he's like my avatar. I mean, this man is so prolific. You mentioned earlier, Pam, about camera, you know, learning how to do that. But Brian is, I mean, just a champ, just always consistent,
He's very consistent.
and you have your message, you're clear on your message, but you're always mixing it up. It's fun, it's different. So I just applaud you. I do every week I say this, but
Yes.
I truly do. I truly do. So would you like to say hello, Brian?
Yes, of course, I'd love to say hello.
Okay.
Hello, Pamskey. Great to see you. And in the spirit of Pennsylvania, I was somewhat near a portion of Pennsylvania tonight. I was coming in from a networking event in Princeton tonight.
Oh.
And no, I did not meet Barbara Majeski or Molly Dare there, unfortunately. But one of these days, maybe. Just got to keep posting about myself being in Princeton, and then maybe they'll finally be able to make something work.
Hey, you know, Brian, I think the greatest thing that could happen is you, me, Barbara, and a few of the others all meeting up in the same, yeah, Debbie, and all meeting up in the same place. I think that would be awesome.
It's going to happen, Pam. I mean, I say this to Brian all the time. I just have to get there, and I'll reach out to her and put it together. But excuse me, I just, you know, because that is going to happen.
Mhm.
That
Oh,
truly.
Brian and I have been talking about it for what, about 1.5 years, 2 years now. Because you're in Jersey?
Yeah, I'm in Edison.
Yeah, we're really not that far away from each other. So
Yeah, I mean,
it'll happen.
yeah.
How far is Princeton from Edison? How long does that take?
It's about a half hour.
Oh,
Basically, just drive down Route 1,
okay.
and you get there.
Okay, but that's like around the corner, technically. Okay, well, I just have to, the thing is, I come to Jersey to my sister's more holiday time, so that's not the time to, put a thing together. So we just have to. Now, Debbie, are you going up to the Mom Link event in Jersey?
Yes, I am.
Ah, more.
And she's coming to my retreat. Like, this girl is actually moving and grooving.
I am.
So, Angeline, do you have Debbie's, well, Debbie too, but do you have Pam's information that we can post? She's so good with all of that, but I'm sure she's still there.
There's Angeline.
I do not have it, but I will pull it up and so that I can share it.
Okay. So yeah, because I wanted up there not for tonight necessarily, but also for replays, so that people can find you, Pam, and find what you're doing, like your retreat that you just mentioned. So do share about that, please.
Yes, I am. So I used to have retreats in my big farmhouse, and I've not done it for many years, and I don't live in a big farmhouse anymore. And so I had gone to Ashley Faye's retreat last year, and I came home and I looked at my husband and I said, I need to start doing these again. So in March, I stepped out there. I felt God call me. I stepped out there. I found a retreat center, and it's a beautiful place called Refreshing Mountain. And it's in Lancaster, PA, or Stevens. It's actually in Stevens, PA. And it is October 22nd through, or 20th through the 22nd. And we're limiting it to 25 women. And we have lots of great things planned. I'm super, super excited. And this is a Christian-based retreat center. So it's just a special place. I got to go tour it, and amazing people. The women are we have a lot of great things planned. And Debbie's speaking there. And anyone who knows Mary Kim, she's speaking there. And then we also have A-Star speaking there. So, and me. It was funny because the other day someone said, Pam, are you speaking at your retreat? And I said, yes. And she said, your flyer doesn't really make it look like you do, that you are. And I said, oh, you're right. I was honoring, I wanted to honor everybody else, but it was like, yes, I am speaking.
Well, you're the facilitator. You're the coordinator.
Yeah, I'm the coordinator. I kind of thought that would be given, but
exactly. You're going to be speaking throughout the whole, period of time.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Well, I have a goal. Well, first off, guys, I am physically moving my home tomorrow through Monday.
Oh.
But this started, I'm sharing this for one reason. This started when I mentioned that I went on that little private retreat to the hill country in August of 21. And I had sold my brick and mortar, but we were continuing to do stem cell using a friend's clinic. But I was like, what do you want me to do? And I had already started working on this Propel program. But I just, I'm not from Texas. No one, my family has either moved or died, or left here. So I have a lot of friends, but it's very different. And I am a New York girl. I'm an East Coast girl. There's no doubt about that. And so I went on this couple of days just by myself, and I heard "Go home." And I was like, go home. Where is home? And so I'm not going to share the whole long story, but the point of the essence of go home is that in time, like in 6 months, he started to show me the new brick and mortar, the essence of that, the why of that. But I also heard a very important piece. Continue to hear, go slow and listen. So then that evolved to release and be ready. Okay, was on it. And so in January of this year, a patient of ours, I follow up with these people because, often a person will have stem cell in their left knee, and then they'll have it in the right knee, and then their shoulder, and then they'll have an IV and what have you. So I stay with them. And this one woman who had stem cell in the fall of 22, I knew that she lived in LA, but built a home in California, in Texas, and ultimately wanted to be in Texas. I knew that. But her kids, adult children, live in LA. So she's planting those seeds with them so that they move with her, so to speak. They're adults. So when I was speaking to her, she said to me, how are you doing? I asked her, and she said, good, but that my house is empty. I really need someone there, but I don't want just anyone there. How about you? And I said, well, I sold my home in 18, the home that Paul and I built. And so this is a town home, and right by it's in Old Town. It's right by the square. I love it. It's great view out there. But I lease it. I don't own this. I said, well, the lease is up in September, end of September. Let me pray about it. So then in March, she came for a visit with her family that's here, and I went to see the home, and it's lovely. It's a 3-car garage. I said, well, if I come, and could I pay you for one of the garages? She goes, oh, no, you can have it. So I have been releasing. So I have sold all my furniture other than my bedroom, and on and on and on. So my daughter Jill is actually coming from Canada in 2 weeks for some stem cell. Her husband's coming later. But the point she said to me is, Mom, you shared with Linda. Linda's a friend of ours from Connecticut, old friends, that I was going to get a van. So remember, release and be ready. So back to your retreat, Pam, and New York and all that, I'm going to get a Sprinter or something, and I'm working on everything like this Propel that I can do virtually. And then the clinic here, my gals are there, and I'll just come once a month or what have you. My nurses can run it, and God is preparing me for this. So more than that, I can't tell you, but that's the backstory of release and be ready. And so I'm moving into Teresa Gill's home over the weekend, and the rest we'll see. You'll see my journey. But I want to be able to, with a moment's notice, say, I want to go to Italy for a month, and not be here for 110 degrees for 4 months. I want to be able to come up and go to the Mom Link thing and spend time, and then go to your retreat, Pam. I know that that's what the next period of time is about. So,
Yeah.
But Jana, I just want to say
beautiful.
to you, girl, this didn't happen overnight, and it's been a journey. It's been a journey. I've been listening and undoing and listening. So what would you like to add to that, Pam, as we close this evening?
I think, one of the things that you said that's so incredibly important, and it's something that I had to do even with this retreat, because though God is the one that called me to put this retreat together, we can try to take control and we think we're going to make things happen. And we get frustrated when things don't quite go the way we thought they were going to. And one of the things that I had to do, I was getting frustrated because I was like, God, I know you called me to do this, but where's the women? And like 2 of my closest friends aren't even going to be there. And when I started this, it was partially because of them, because they said, wow, it'd be great for us to have a retreat because we went to one 2 years ago. And I, when I set it all up, they didn't sign up. And then finally they sent me a message and said, we're not, both of them separately said, I won't be there. And it's like, I remember just thinking, but God, if my closest people aren't going to be here? So then I started feeling like I had to control that. And I finally got to that point where it was like, you know what? I'm putting my hands in the air. This is your retreat, God. You will bring who's supposed to be here, and it will be what you want it to be. And so that release and be ready. I love that because I have seen that so many times in my life. And it's so funny because I said to myself, Pam, you know this. And it's like, yes, I know this, but I'm human. I want to take control and I don't even realize I'm doing it sometimes. But I love the fact, this is what I always say. I love the fact that God is so patient with us. I love the fact that he knows, he understands our mind, he understands our heart. I don't think he's offended when we struggle with these things, because he knows. He knows. And I love that he is so patient with me because he knows I'm going to come around. I might kick and scream because I kick and scream about everything, but he knows I'm going to come around. And so, it's just such a beautiful thing to know that he loves us that much, that he will keep showing us until we finally put our hands in the air and say, all right, I give, it's yours. I surrender to you, and whatever you want, here you go. So, and I always like to finish with, don't give up. Don't give up. There's, keep going. You've got breath in your lungs. Keep going. And don't give up because you have no idea what's right around the corner for you. No idea.
That 3 feet from gold, he has that goal for us. And if you stop, you're going to have to start again. So you might as well stay with what
Just
you
keep
are
going.
doing. Keep going. Just keep
Yeah.
going. So, Angeline, would you do me a favor and take a screenshot, please? Is that about 20 screenshots?
I was going to say it sounded like it, didn't it?
Yeah, I got you. It's all set.
I do want to give Summer Day a plug. You just said about Pam, you said about his patience with us. I met this beautiful woman, Summer Day, and Day is D-E-Y, summer is summer, at Pedro Adeo's conference, 100X in March, up in Dallas. And how I met her, it's pointless, but I did. And she started, I think it's the 4th year, maybe the 3rd, but I think it's the 4th. Just like you said, Pam, about your conference, your retreat rather. And she said to her girlfriends, let's read the Bible in 1 year. And they were like game for it. And so she said, well, let's do it on Facebook and other people can come. So it was a Facebook Live. And so those 5 girlfriends turned into, 100 and then 1,000 and then 10,000 and so forth. So she is, I think it's her 4th year. And she's actually filming it at Zandra Evans's studio. So there's a person reading it every day. So today was 12 through 15. So that's Abraham and the messy lot of them, like Lot, the actual Lot, and Sodom and Gomorrah. And so if you think back to all of that stuff, guys, holy moly, guacamole, what God has put up with, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
extraordinary. But you can go on the app, and I'm not 100% sure what the app is, but I just go into her Facebook group. But go to Summer, if you're interested. So I've never read the Bible cover to cover, and I'm going to do my darndest to do it with them. But it's easier, like we, following with something like what we're doing here. So, but it's Summer Day, and you can find her on Facebook. And turns out that Angeline has been following her for 3 years. So no accidents, none. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me tonight on the Propel Deep Dive. It was such a great week, Pam. I so enjoyed having you with me on Tuesday. And these are on YouTube. They're on LinkedIn. So you can go back and listen. And if you missed Tuesday. They are there. And the replays on Breakfast with Champions, so that's great. And so we're just here every week, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. And I have no idea what time it is, Jenna, out there, but whatever it is, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, right, Pacific. But each week, there's a different guest, and my commitment is to have people that maybe other people don't know. Everyone knows you, Pam, here tonight, but to bring, people that you'll glean information from. So each week it's a unique, different person. So I look forward to having you guys with me next week. And Pam, don't be a stranger. Come on in, because it is a active room. So now before we close, Jenna, would you like to share something? A question for Pam? Any thoughts? Any ideas?
Well, since I didn't hear her story, no, I don't have a word to say.
Okay, well, you got to go to YouTube, Jenna. Just go to Megan DiMartino, and I think it's under Propel as well. But I have a YouTube channel, so you can find these all there. Where is it under, Angeline? Is it under Propel, or is it under my name, or both, or what?
The replays, you'll get them if you go to the propel.megandimartino.com/info. If you're already registered, you're going to get them anyways. I'll send out a reminder of how to access the replays this week.
That's right. That's another reason to enroll in this program. Exactly. So Jenna, you're there. So you need to just go back to the group and.
But yeah, it's also on the Facebook group and on the YouTube channel, Megan DiMartino. So you can find all the spaces.
And find it. Okay. So because if you have not heard Pam's story, Jenna, it just is a true hope and possibilities story that she, the Holy Spirit has been guiding her through, all of us, since the day she came onto the planet. But she's had a challenging life, and now she's in her field of favor that God created her to do, and she is now just evolving into that, and that is where our purpose lies. That is revealed to us, and she is truly in that place. And she's, like she shared, is having a retreat. So one of these days, my friend Jenna, you have to come to the East Coast.
Don't even get me started. I'll start crying. I want to go to this retreat so bad.
Well, one of these years, you will come. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Just like with you, Brian, we will, that's in the back of my mind all the time, is the coordination of something with you, kiddo. So we'll do that. Well, thank you again, guys, and have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you next Tuesday on BWC's My Propel Weekly. Actually, it stars Tina Wilson is my guest. I kicked off this week Motivation Monday, and so for my to be organized for that, I'm making sure I have everything organized for that, so I can announce that in the Motivation Monday e-blast, which you guys will get. But Tina has written a book, speaking of a book, and so she's promoting that, and it's launching, and so I wanted to support her and promote her, so she will be joining us next week. And she has if you haven't heard her story, Brian and Jenna, you need to join us, because it's a very special, very powerful story. So, and Debbie, anything you want to add?
I just want to say thank you, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Wonderful. And Brian, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. Well, first I'll say that I like your hat too.
Okay.
We've had better years though.
Yes, it's a very used old hat. Yes.
And I think there was something else that probably that left my brain that I was gonna say too, but yeah, I won't take up any more time trying to think of what it is that left my mind.
That's okay. I'll post this screenshot.
We know how that is.
Yeah, we sure do.
Exactly. But I'll post this, Brian, and you can say, hey, this is what I was thinking, and we can all have a group chat there. So no worries at all. Well, thank you guys. We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Yes.
Pam, I'm just sorry that something went wrong with my phone, that I wasn't able to hear you from the very beginning.
Yeah, you'll be able to go back and get the recording.
Right. But
Yeah.
I know you well enough, so it was
Yeah.
good to see you. And thank
Good
you,
to see you
Megan.
too.
Jana,
It's always good to see Brian and Debbie, and they're my pals now.
so Jana,
My
if you
Propel
need
pals.
Jana, if you need any IT help to find it, just let Angeline and I know. Just text us, and we'll.
No, I should be able to find it. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, guys. I'll see you Tuesday after my big move.
Thank you, Tanya.
And yes, Tanya and everyone that was on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you, guys.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Be blessed.
Bye.